Okay.
Here we go.
Okay.
How you doing, everybody? This is Dennis Michelson. Welcome to the science of fantasy football and to the matchup lab, folks, because this is where the both shows that we do sort of come together here at the end of the season. And joining me as he does each and every episode, he is the fantasy professor. He's a real professor. It's John Bush. And John, such an exciting time of the year for fantasy football because it's research season in full bloom,
Yeah.
and such an exciting time for real football because it's win or go home.
It is. There's going to be a lot of interesting things happening. I haven't focused on it till today. I've been doing uh, research, stockpiling research, building databases, data sets. So that is kind of my first thing I would encourage anybody to do, besides update their data diary, their game diary. Make sure you've got your draft board from last August or whenever. Make sure you've got all the information you remember now, because in August, you'll forget. So just the leagues you won, why do you think you won them? Just propose some ideas, just things that you think you saw, and it's the beginning of investigating yourself, right? You've got to handicap yourself, and that's part of the diary process. I hope that's what we're helping you do. And then you can plug in our uh, data lab that we're going to do the rest of the time in research season. You can plug that in on top of your self handicapping. So uh, that's part of it. I will say uh, this year it was a down year. I only made about 11% on my money for FFPC. That's sad. I know that's three times what the government treasuries will pay you. So we can all debate on what's good or not good. Some people would say three times treasuries would be pretty good for your retirement fund. And I can't say that that's not true, but anyway, I'm greedy. I want 50% rate of return. That's kind of my what I want to happen.
Yes.
So if I put 1,000 in, I want to be raking 1,500 at the end of the season. So I'm greedy that way. Uh, but what I will say was all my drafts were in August, and so I made money. I didn't notice a timing thing, but I need to go back because I have some drafts that were 6 hour, some that were 2 hour, and some that were instantaneous, basically 1 minute. And I've got to just, I think I know what the result was, but I need to double check that. And Dennis, I might venture into the next level of investment. In FFPC, you got $35. Then I think you got a $70 or a 75 or 100 or whatever that next level is. I might try to do four or five of those and really roll the dice. I hadn't decided yet. I haven't made that, but I might do that. I think you and I are thinking about doing a dynasty startup
Yes.
because we really
Yes.
don't have one where you and I have applied fully our techniques and research. So we really don't have a test case, and we probably need to have that. The one we're sharing is what I did in not knowing Dynasty, and you took over and helped resuscitate it. We got it up to second, thank you. But we kind of kind of died back down a little bit. You know, the
Oh,
our
yeah.
wings were clipped. I think some of injuries and things took us out last year. So, I know there's a natural ebb and flow on Dynasty, and I know you were going to look at that. So we'll be doing that, and I know you're cooking up all sorts of stuff for our data lab, but we'll do it over at Sports Affiliation.
Yeah, and it's important to do a fresh test from beginning. And we're going to be doing it in two ways this year. One will be an FPPC, which
Mhm.
will be a one quarterback dynasty league.
Mhm.
And I have signed up for another startup on Sleeper
Uh-oh.
that will be a super flex. And the idea is to use our data and our methodology to draft two fresh teams, one super flex, one single quarterback, and to chart how those teams do and how our strategy did our strategy work better in one quarterback versus super flex. It did this year for me in redraft. So I'm very curious to see how that all breaks down. Now, maybe some of the reason I didn't do as well in Superflex was because I lost Jaden Daniels and I lost Pat Mahomes and I lost Burrow. And those were three of my key guys
Right.
in my redraft Superflex league. So maybe it was just a fluke. Maybe it was, one quarterback was better this year and it won't necessarily be better next season. But I do think these side by side tests are very important. And we have not drafted a superflex team or a dynasty team together. We used the methodology in two startups that I did 3 years ago. And both of those teams are named Science of Fantasy Football, and both of them have been successful. I've won in 6 seasons now with those two teams. I've won 4 titles in 6 seasons. So that's incredible success using our methodology. And I have no reason to believe that those teams will age out quickly or anything else because I'm using my usual layering technique in Dynasty. I'm not afraid of, quote unquote older players in that 26 to 30 range, as long as I have my layered ages at each position. Then I don't time out it all at the same time.
Right.
And so I think those teams are actually both of those teams are incredibly strong. One went to the semifinals, or I'm sorry, one lost in the semifinals, and the other one lost in the championship this year. So two very, very good teams that are, cash cows winning me money. And
Cash
it's all
cows.
because we used the right methodology. But, you know, I, I have a mini gripe this
Uh-oh.
week
Uh-oh.
because and I'll call this that people like to jump to contusions in fantasy football because you see it every year. Okay, it's the inevitable. These are my top 15 or my top 20 guys at each position for next season. And this is way too early, my first take. And I get it that's must be popular to do because everybody is doing it right now. My opinion is when I get done with my data study, and first of all, I spent about a week and a half doing QC of my 2025 data set. Once I get done with that, then I have another year that is perfect. Okay. The data is good. It gets saved and archived so I can go back to that data if I need to do more work and more studies. Because you and I are always coming up with new ideas,
Yep.
but we've got the databases built to look at those ideas.
Yes.
But what I don't understand is, and people were like, who's your top running back for next year? Well, probably Bijan and Gibbs. That would be my guess right now.
Yeah.
But I'm quick to say so much is going to change. And when I say people are jumping to contusions, it has to do with Bijan and Gibbs and why they're the number one and number two consensus pick right now. Because people are saying, oh, could you imagine how great Gibbs is going to be without Montgomery? And Bijan, they're saying, oh, could you imagine if he didn't get a few of those touchdowns vultured by Algar? And Algar's a free agent. He's not going to be back. Monty's not going to be back. These guys are going to get the volume that they missed out on. No, they're not. Probably not. Because somebody else is going to come in. If you were a coach, now Atlanta's even more confusing now because they're changing coaches. But let me ask you this, a very simple question. If something's working in the NFL, don't coaches tend to continue doing it until it's not working anymore? That's what I've seen.
I think so. I'm not a coach expert like I should be, so I can't say, I don't have the numbers, right? Like X
Yes,
percent,
yes,
Dennis. I mean,
yes.
I don't have that data.
But how many times do we see one running back leave a situation?
Mm-hmm.
Look at New England, for instance. Ramondre Stevenson's always been in a timeshare with another running back, right?
Right.
Those guys leave or get hurt in the case of Gibson too. And a new guy comes in and everybody's like, oh, Travion Henderson's going to take over Ramondre Stevenson to the bench. Or is it going to be a split again?
Yeah.
Like the split was pretty consistent even with a different coach. Like this is the thing is I don't think we're going to automatically see 420 touches for Bijan next year or for Gibbs because it's shown that they have a lot of success when they also have another back taking some of the load off of them.
Yeah.
It's working. Why break it? So I understand this need to be like, oh, here's my top list, because I will have a list of people, but I won't have it until like March. When I first get an idea of where different players are going to go and who's being rumored to who, and get an idea of the opportunity. I'll have an idea what's going to happen in the draft the next month. Yeah. And I can have my way too early deal, but it'll be referenced as this is as of March 1st or March 15th. Well, it will be subject to change.
And I push you to do some probability or odds.
Yes.
Which you don't see.
No.
You see, when you mentioned Bijan, they'll bring somebody in, that is probably most likely, but you can estimate the probability he becomes the super bell cow. I mean, there is a world where that happens. So we can estimate, is it a Charbonnet Walker or not kind of situation, or a Derrick Henry gets all the load kind of thing. And we could speculate. And that's part of why I wanted to push that concept, because I see a lot of lists, but they don't give you any kind of, when they say, here's my number one, here's my number two, is that really, are they different at all? Are they 51 and the other one's 50? I mean, what is the difference versus, no, Bijan is 80. My second choice is at 20, whatever number it is, but that tells me something. So we can judge your order, which I don't think is important as that probability and, of course, the value, right? So Bijan probably will be number one. It doesn't mean he's going to be my most drafted running back. I
Oh,
will
no,
probably
no.
find somebody that will be of value or two. And in fact, that may even happen in season, right? We saw things happen, right? Injury and things. I mean, that's part of the seasonal game too. So lots of things swirling. In a vacuum, we can have a one and a two and a three, but I like to see the probability. And again, that goes back to the super forecasting uh, book that if you want to read about. And like I said, I participated one year and we were given a bankroll and they would ask you, is the Russian ruble going to go up 20% by 6 months? I mean, Dennis, that was, they were looking at politics and war. Is there going to be an invasion of Cuba? And, how much money would you bet on that? I mean, that's part of, testing. So everybody had to participate. So the people that ran it got to find who was damn good and would made quote money. And there were few that were super forecasters. The rest of us were kind of goofy and weren't. So I think in the NFL, there's a lot of people talking, but are they making money in futures markets? Or I want to see their W-2Gs, Dennis. I mean, a lot of people at the racetrack, yeah, I make money. Well, can I see your W-2Gs or can I see your tax? Show me something. And some people, what's a W-2G? Well, all I can say, if you don't know what that is, then you've probably never been around a situation where people have made some money because as a young man, and I know Dennis did this too, our tax rates were so low that people would,
Oh, yeah.
some of my dad's friend, hey, why don't you go cash this superfecta here and, put it in your name and make a little money. I think the statute has run out from the 70s, Dennis, so I don't think they can come get me now.
No, I
But,
think we're both
that kind
safe.
of stuff. And I've
Yeah.
had some W-2Gs in my life. And with Twin Spires, Dennis, they send you, you know, they watch what you win, and you will get your W-2G in the mail. Let me tell you, and you will have to deal with it, and that's part. So that's what I want to see when somebody flaps their chops. I like to see their probability prediction have a record that way, not just some type of ordinal 1, 2, 3, 4. Because I don't know what I mean. If is it really 5% difference or 10%? Is there the okay? Yeah, and that's why people try to do tiers. And I do recognize that's a way to do it, but I like the probability. As a gambler, as a bettor, I like to think in my head, okay, 80% chance this happens. Okay, what is that? Is that a 3 to 5, a 2 to 5? That puts something in me because I've seen horses that are 2 to 5, and I say, oh yeah, that happens a lot versus 10 to 1. It just it lets me play a little bit with these choices and value. It helps me round up the value. Is really where I'm trying to go.
Yeah, and I wish we had the optional markets like they have over in Great Britain where you can
Bam.
bet
Yeah.
against a favorite. You know,
Yes.
like a 1 to 5 shot, you can take the other side.
Yes, you
You get
can.
everybody else on the other side. Now, your odds are not as high as you would
Yeah.
hope they would be. They take a
Hey,
nice
they
cut
got to
there,
rake their money.
and that's fine. But I would love to have that opportunity because in horse racing, it's easy. Because the other night, I'm watching the races, and I sent you a little text about
Yeah,
it.
I saw that.
$10,000 claiming race. Okay, which is
Well, folks,
not a,
right there, when Dennis says 10,000, that sounds like a lot in horse racing.
that's
It's
pretty low.
not.
It's
It's
pretty
that's
low.
low. That's low.
Yeah. So
Inconsistent low.
yeah,
That's
and
like Las Vegas.
yeah, and $10,000 claimers in harness racing is a
Yeah.
little different than in thoroughbreds. Thoroughbreds, they'll hit one good race and then five bad, and you're
Yep. Yep.
trying to catch them off, when they're coming up to that great race.
Yeah.
In harness racing, a $10,000 claimer will race 30 times a year. Okay.
Yeah.
Top will be about 30 to 35 times a year because they'll stay good and sound, and even a $10,000 claimer will. But they will go into this streak where 7 or 8 races in a row they're really good, and then they fall off. And when they fall off, they fall off, and they stay off for 4 or 5 or 6 races. But they won't keep they won't keep that level, like a $50,000 claimer will. So there was a 1-to-5 claimer going from the 8 post on a bull ring, meaning a half-mile track, which is a huge disadvantage. Got hung out to dry on the start. Shows no good speed, but has won 4 races in a row from inside posts. Now, my dad's buddy Charlie would have ripped the program in half and not played anything outside the top 4, and he would have won because the rail horse won at big odds, and the 1-to-5 shot never got the lead and finished 7th. A lot of bridge jumpers because there was a minus pool in the show pool.
Yep.
I mean, the show prices were bigger than the
Yep.
win prices on the horse that ran, like, I think it was 8-to-1.
Mm-hmm.
Paid $18. He paid like 20 to place.
Right.
It was a negative place in show pool because people were loading up on this 1-to-5, figuring he couldn't miss.
Right.
What I did in fantasy last year, and we'll grade how well I do because that's one of my grading projects here once the data is done. Once the MVPs are all calculated, which took time to make sure the database was clean and perfect. Now I'm going through the MVPs, about 20 teams in out of 32. Once that gets done, one of the first things I do will be grading my forecasts from last season. Because remember, when I gave a forecast, I didn't give a solid number. I gave a range of numbers. Here's the low, here's the high. And I want to hit over 80% of those ranges. If I hit over 80% of those ranges, then I'm locked in. And then it's a case of understanding, like Jamar Chase, for instance. He was my number 1 guy, my highest rated wide receiver, but I showed the downside to him if Burrow got hurt. And the downside lived up to projections. Without Burrow, Jamar Chase was not nearly as good,
Yeah.
So he was about an 85 and 125 with Burrow in my MVP. And that's exactly what I forecasted, was this range of outcomes based on not Jamar Chase's health, but that of his quarterback. And that one I guarantee I nailed, but I'll look at and grade myself. And if I didn't do well, we'll know why. What did I miss? Did I miss something in particular? Was I better at quarterbacks or wide receivers or running backs or tight ends? Which position challenged me the most? That's a lot of work, but it's valuable before we do the forecasting for next year.
Yep.
But you're right. The difference between 1 and 2 and the difference between 2 and 3 and 3 and 4 is it's not consistent.
And tight end is a position that I've heard you. I mean, I heard your voice in my head when you just said that, Dennis. And there's something to that, folks. And positional differences are a part of this too. And you can get muddled. Oh, well, that's the 5th best. He must be good. Well, it's, not much more different than the 10th best. Why
Yes.
why am I buying at 5 when I can wait and get the same product 5 rounds later?
In 2024, using any method, whether it was actual fantasy points, whether it was points per game or my MVP index,
Yeah.
the gap between tight end 1 and tight end 5
Hmm.
was greater than the gap between tight end 5 and tight end 22.
Yep.
That's scary, but
Yep.
it's also knowledge. And that's why if we pass on McBride or Bowers or a Kelsey or a Kittle at the right prices, we wait until the Brenton Stranges or the streaming tight end options
Yep.
like Ertz, because we can get them so late and we can get two of them really late and
Yep.
then stream them. And when your tight end 8, for instance, scores a MVP score of 45,
Yep.
I can beat that with streaming.
Hmm.
So that's the kind of research that we're going to do, folks. And we're going to be bringing the matchup lab will morph into the data lab when the season is over. So we will not be going away here at the sports affiliation or on the science of fantasy football. We will keep entertaining you all year long, but it is the wild card weekend, and this can often
Right.
be one of the best and most interesting weekends of the year for
Yeah.
real football. Some crazy matchups this year, and it
Mm.
starts out for Saturday's games
Yeah.
with LA and Carolina. Why
Yeah.
don't you break down the data here and give
Right.
us a little look?
So again, folks, my my methods start with a top down. If I was betting this weekend, I'm not. I prefer right now, this part of the season, to keep my bankroll as it is. I've done my bankroll for the year, Dennis. I've got to, now focus on, those horse racing because we're getting ready, something simple and easy to figure out, right? Har har. The Kentucky Derby's coming, and we got lots of things to work on, you and I. And we got to invest our money appropriately. So, but if I was betting, folks, I would like to look at the metrics. And first thing I'm looking at is over under, which is a prediction of points scored. And there is some data. I think I introduced it some show somewhere back, when that there seemed to be more passing yards when there were higher over and under. So, uh, I forgot exactly what I said because I don't do a lot of betting right now. If I was, but for me, Buffalo and Jacksonville, Vegas is tipping the hand, Dennis, and they're saying lots of points scored versus Houston and Pittsburgh, few, if any, points. So this would be our so called Husky, Dennis, and this would be that rascally squirrel game. Yeah, and the rest of them are pretty much average. 45, 46, 44, folks, historically is average. So, you know, does that mean that these numbers are in concrete? No, but it's a start. It's a thing to think about. The next thing, Dennis, is I look at the spreads. I see a big spread here. Rams spanking Carolina gets a touchdown and lots of field goals, or just lots of field goals. So that's interesting. Versus look at how close Green Bay, Chicago, or Buffalo, Jacksonville. And the spread 3, 4, 5 is about average. So we have a extreme game one way, two extremes the other. And one of those extreme in spread is also the highest. So to me, as somebody who likes the the data, Buffalo Jacksonville seems like you could have a lot of interesting things happening there. But anyway, that's that. And then, Dennis, I thought I'd just show a thumbnail of the DAPS, and lo and behold, as you look,
Ooh.
a lot of red, Dennis. So
Oh yeah.
something to think about. Teams that have a good defense tend to show up this time of year and look at what's there. But Jacksonville is against Buffalo, tough. San Francisco gets Philly, tough. New England gets the Chargers, tough. Pittsburgh gets Houston, tough. Philly against San Francisco, easy. The rest of them are around average. So again, I'm just highlighting some extreme situations. It doesn't mean that I'm locked in, Dennis. As you know, my feeling, since I don't have the data, is that in playoffs, it's different than during the season. I don't know
Oh
that,
yeah.
folks,
I
but if
think
I was
so.
betting, I would want to investigate that a little bit. In other words, can teams go beyond what the season tells us? Is there a new story to be written by the offenses and the defenses? But based on the past, this is what we're given, Dennis. I mean, I can't make it anything other than it is. It's just how we deal with that. So if I was betting, I would look for opportunities, and I like to bet parlays, and that's probably I don't know if that's the best way to do it. I know some people debate no, some people say yes. I don't know. I'm not that big on sports betting. This is only my second year, and you're saying, well, you mean you take? Yeah, it. I'm slow at this stuff. I'm a sloth at betting something that I haven't been versus horse racing. I've been losing good money since the 1970s, Dennis, and damn it, I paid a lot of education to learn to I learned, now when I first would bet, Dennis, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was losing money, but it was a lot of money quick. It would just, now I found I lose less money. And actually, I've had some years that I've won money. And so this year, Dennis, I hadn't told you this, but there's Twin Spires has this parlay feature.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I hit a four race parlay the other day for $263 for $4 bet.
Woohoo. I love it.
Woohoo. And so I'm actually winning this year. So I have a winning, if I quit right now and didn't bet another bet, I've won money this year. Woo woo. So, I can't do that. But anyway, yeah, it was a nice little parlay I put together. Anyway, Dennis, first game. Are we going to do all these? I guess we are.
Yeah, let's roll through
Rams,
all of them.
Carolina, 33-12, 10.5 point big spread. Vegas says this
Mm.
is not a game at all. Just move the Rams forward. 46 bat average. Carolina has an opportunity with Chubut or Rico. I don't know. Rico Suave. I don't know what's going on there. But they have an easy time. But it looks like the passing, uh, you know, I don't know. I'm sorry. That's the Rams get an easy time, and passing. It says Carolina's rough and tough, and I will say that Carolina has been persnickety at home. Be aware, folks. I wouldn't bet any of the spread because of that tendency, and Carolina's actually been improving. Carolina versus the Rams, I think there are opportunities in the passing for them and the rushing. So It looks to me like both teams have a rushing opportunity here. Carolina's efficiency is sucky, Dennis. 17 versus Rams at
Ooh,
88. Carolina loves home, 40% more efficient at home. They are improving last 3 weeks. They love to rush versus pass at home. That's exactly what the defense kind of is giving them. So that's suspicious. The Rams are probably going to try to rush a little more than pass. I mean, but still, Puka's Puka, and I'm not expecting him not to get his. I'll probably be a little worried about that spread. I would not bet the spread. I'm not
no,
convinced
no.
that Vegas has. I think it's a closer, and I'm not sure it's as high scoring for the Rams. I think the Rams kind of win, but I'm not convinced Carolina's dead in the water at all. So I would be suspicious of this whole scenario. Vegas seems to be it's cut and dry. It's going to be, I think, more competitive than people think.
Yeah, both teams are going to run the ball. This is going to be an under. This is going to be a game in the 30s. There's going to be rain for the
Ooh,
game. The
didn't even
wind
know that.
isn't going to be horrible.
Mm,
It's going to be breezy, but not like not doing it away.
right.
It's going to be just on the borderline of being strong enough wind to affect the game.
Hmm.
But the rain is the bigger factor. There could be a lot of rain. In fact, I would not be surprised, folks, if the TV windows have a little bit of a problem with these playoff games, because I would not be shocked if we didn't. I wouldn't be shocked if we saw a lightning delay tomorrow with this Carolina game. It is very warm out in the southeast right now. Uh, but yeah, I agree with you. The spread is too high. The spread is there because there's a lot of Rams bettors and not as many Carolina bettors, so they had to even the playing field there. But I like the Rams to win. I think it'll
Yeah,
be
yeah,
more of about a 4 or 5 point game, and I think it'll be in the 30s. Green Bay
yeah.
coming to Chicago. Now, I read this on Twitter, so I don't know if it's true or not, but
Uh-oh.
it seems to make sense because
Okay.
these two teams have not played each other very often in the playoffs, right? They're
Yeah,
same division. They
right.
haven't both been good at the same time a lot of times in recent history.
Uh,
Somebody posted that the Bears have not beaten Green Bay in the playoffs
mhm.
since like the day before Pearl Harbor. So I
Oh
don't know
my
if that's
goodness.
true or not, but
Yeah.
it's been a while. But Chicago hosting the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, it's Green Bay is an away favorite, which is quite interesting here. Spreads 1.5. It's 44, 45. I'm not worried about that. I do note how close it is. Vegas thinks it's close. Probably the bettors do too. Green Bay needs to pass, Dennis. So Jordan Love and his, I don't know whose day is it, Dobbs's day or Christian Watson or Reed. I don't know who does the what, and it may be a little of each. I would hate to, be betting too heavily. It's either going to be somebody gets all the goodies, or it could be a spread, and your betting is foiled by picking, you know, the one here. I wouldn't play the defenses or anything. Tight ends are not intriguing to me. I know Loveland's had good with Chicago, but that's a tough situation. It looks to me like it's pass happy kind of scenario. Chicago home, they actually rush and pass below league averages,
Ooh,
10% below.
ooh.
So they've done everything they've done below what the league has done as far as
Hmm.
rushing and passing attempts. I don't know. I'm not buying that scenario. I think Chicago's going to be forced to have to pass. Green Bay is an away team, Dennis. 11% better at away, believe it or not, right? 11%, and they're above league average 5%. So both teams are balanced. Both teams, I think, are going to have to pass. And I will note, because of Love being in and out, he's been inconsistent. The data says they're declining, but week 18 is part of that last 3 weeks. So I'm not buying that either. I think it's going to be passing. I think it might be an under. And I'm not looking for a big shootout here. I think it's last team with the ball, Dennis. I hate these because in a pick 'em, who knows who the last team with the ball is going to be? Coin flip, and who knows. I think Green Bay has the more passing talent than Chicago as a group, but Chicago, I think with Swift and all, I think they have an opportunity to keep Green Bay off the field. So I I would probably bet Chicago. If I was doing a pick 'em, I'd look hard at Chicago. But Vegas says Green Bay.
So here's an interesting scenario for you. Add a lot of wind for this
Oh,
game, a strong north wind. So not a lot of crosswind. Okay.
mhm.
It's going to be coming, this is going to be a field position game with the kicking game because I wouldn't be surprised to see the winds gusting into the low to mid 30s. And that's at the beginning of the game. The winds will start to die down late in towards the evening hours. So as the game is going on, the winds will lighten up a little bit.
So
We are going to
passing
see some,
could increase then.
it could increase. And that's actually very similar to what happened the last time these two teams played in Chicago. It was a very windy day. There was a lot of crosswind that day, though. And despite the crosswind, we saw the execution of some really good pass plays by both teams. But in this one, I think it's going to be the conservative run, try to run the ball and try to keep the ball out of the hands of the other quarterback. And I think both teams are going to want to do that, but both defenses are pretty good against the run. So I like the under in this one. I'm going to pick the Bears, and I'm going to hope that, the ghost of Dave Duerson, blows that wind a little stronger whenever Green Bay is
Okay.
trying to kick.
Okay,
All right.
good.
So those are the Saturday games. We go to the Sunday games. And the first one, Buffalo and Jacksonville.
This figures to be the shootout of shootouts. I think what that means in my head is Josh Allen gets to run in a couple of touchdowns, and Trevor just goes bananas here. And this could be an over, Dennis. This could be last team with the ball. In a different scenario, it's going to be so much TDs and things. This could be like a ping pong match, back and forth and back and forth. I think if I was playing any kind of playoff, I think I'd, in some ways, if it's, I don't know if they have 1 week playoffs, but I would be looking to stockpile Jacksonville uh, wide receivers, and I would look at Allen and Cook, and I think that would be some of my parlays there. I will say this: Jacksonville faces a tough Buffalo, and the data says it's all about the rush. And I haven't seen that out of Jacksonville. They've used ETN in passing and rushing, so I think he'll have a day. Buffalo, I think it's, if Josh Allen doesn't do his Superman routine, this could be a lean day. And I think ETN with Knox anytime touchdown is the obvious parlay that I'm not going to play, Dennis, but I am going to note that's what the DAPs are saying. It says Buffalo should be able to pass. Again, who they passing to? We don't know who the alpha is because there is no alpha. So it's a game specific who's the alpha. And this could be a crazy situation here. Buffalo is away and Jacksonville's at home. Jacksonville loves home, 18% better, and they like to rush and pass a little less. But Dennis, they've been heavily improving, and I can't say that Buffalo's a sure shot. I agree with Vegas. It's that damn close. If I was picking, I would probably pick Jacksonville because of the home. That's it. Because I just don't know if Allen can score enough as Superman to get them to keep up with them. I'm just not seeing it. I understand Knox has an opportunity, or I don't know if Kincaid's playing. If he is, then I'm not sure that then I wouldn't play the parlay. If Kincaid's out, then Knox is part of your parlay here. Buffalo away, 10% less efficient. So we're talking 118 versus 90, Dennis. That's a big gap there in efficiency. And that's part of another reason I like Jacksonville a little bit. Buffalo, it says rush. So I think if Cook and Allen don't do their thing, Buffalo loses. So I think I'm not sure they can do enough against Jacksonville here.
Yeah, I like Jacksonville at home. This is the only game all weekend where weather won't be a factor. It's going to
Nice.
be an absolutely beautiful day in Jacksonville, but since it is Florida and this game is actually being held pretty early in the day with the 1 o'clock start, you could see a little pop-up shower action late in the day, but not a front-driven situation. So I'm not worried about that being a major impact on this game. I like Jacksonville here. I think because it's a playoff game, it's going to trend to more rushing than we might normally see out of Jacksonville. I think ETN, they might just feed ETN, a lot more in this game.
If they can
And
keep Josh Allen off the field, that's an
that's,
advantage.
yeah, and that's why I like the under in here. I like Jacksonville, but the under is going to be too close. And there are scenarios with the big play potential for both teams where I would not make the bet on this over under, but I do like the under by a few points. The second game on Sunday, San Francisco traveling to Philadelphia.
Vegas says not much of a game. Philadelphia wins and spanks them pretty good at home. 44 spreads 5. That's about average. San Francisco, Philly has been rough and tough. CMC's the only hope. It's like the only hope we have to beat the Empires, Obi-Wan. And here he is, Obi-Wan, CMC. If he has a game, San Francisco is going to be competitive because Dennis, these DAPs look
Oh,
rough and tough for Kittle. Everybody's going to have to eat their Wheaties here to keep up with Philly's defense here. The only question about Philadelphia is Hertz has been kind of funky this whole season. It's just having had him in some of my teams, it was an interesting ride. I never got this. It was funny just how it all worked. But the
yes.
DAPs say play everybody, folks. And if we believe in the DAPs 100%, Philly easily wins, and CMC's the hope for San Francisco. Philly is going to want to try to rush a little more, not greatly, but 6% more. And so that's good. Good news. Good news. Frisco loves away, Dennis. So actually, efficiency wise, it's 122 to 105. So San Francisco actually loves where they're at, and they're balanced. They have a good balance. Both teams are balanced. Frisco has been improving. So is this Philadelphia defense real? I think it is, and that's why Philly wins. It's not necessarily Philly does anything. I'm not sure I'm buying the over under, but I think Goddard. I kind of like all of them to get a touchdown actually. So this could be really interesting betting game. I'm not going to bet, but it does seem intriguing. I do like Philly though.
Yeah, I agree with Philly as the pick here because San Francisco's defense has just not been able to stop anything. Now, they did kind of hold Seattle down,
Mhm.
but Seattle still won the game.
Yeah.
So Seattle didn't have to do much, and they still held on to win that game against San Francisco because the San Francisco offense didn't put anything together against a tough defense.
Yeah.
Sound familiar?
Yeah.
So this is a tough defense. In fact, I think Philadelphia's defense, when healthy, it might even be better than Seattle's. So I like, and I'm not sure. I haven't, you know, could Philadelphia still be, you know, I understand when guys play in the playoffs, they're not 100%, and there's a big difference between their performance at less than 100% to live up to these DAPs. But I still think San Francisco is going to have a hard time scoring consistently, and that's why I also like the under. The last game
For
on
Sunday.
Sunday is the LA Chargers traveling to New England.
Yeah, New England, Vegas says New England beats them 46, average spread, average play. New England has to fight a tough chart, surprisingly tough. I will say New England has an opportunistic defense. So if I was streaming defenses this week, New England can take the ball away. So that might be part of your parlay play in here is looking at that. I do like the wide receivers for New England have an opportunity here. There's the trick. I would hate to bet on Stevenson or Travion. I don't know who's going to get hot or not. I haven't figured out if it was injury or hot hand or what, trying to decipher that backfield.
Oh.
It could be a split this week, and that could be, sad if I was playing any kind of betting. The Chargers should be able to pass, and their rookie tight end has an opportunity as well. So it's just the rushing is going to be Hampton's going to be rough and tough. I think they'll try to use him, but I'm not sure he's going to get a lot of traction. I think Herbert's going to have to air it out to beat New England, and I'm just not sure that he won't get picked a few times and could even see a pick six by New England's D, Dennis. That might be an interesting part of your parlay in this game. Maybe a Gadsden pick six defense for New England. That ought to pay you some odds. New England is balanced. They are league balanced. Nothing worries me there. Chargers, their efficiency is sucky. 25% is one of the lowest in the league. I don't know how they made it
Wow.
here. Yeah, it's not good.
Wow.
And away, they don't like away, Dennis. 93%, so 7%
Ooh.
less efficient. So, and they want to pass, which is good for them. That's what the DAPs say they're going to have to do. So I'm not sure about, look at that. 72 means 72% less rushing. I think
Oof.
they're going to have to air it out to keep up with New England. Uh, so I think I'm definitely picking New England, but the Chargers they could get lucky with the passing, but that's what they're going to have to do to win. So we'll see. But I think New England handles them.
And add a wet field to the game as well. And notice I'm saying wet in New
Yeah,
England in January.
yeah,
It's going to be raining during the day. before the game is over, it could change over to a rain snow mix, but it'll
Yeah,
be well above freezing still.
yeah,
So, the field condition, just wet, will be the issue. Not, there won't be any snowblower game here for the kickers
yeah,
to worry about late in the game,
right.
but not a perfect weather day. So I'm looking for. You're right. The Chargers got to throw the ball to win,
Yep.
and the Chargers are playing behind. I think it's the fourth guy on the depth chart at right tackle and the third on the depth chart
Oh,
at left
that
tackle
makes
from the
it even
beginning of the year.
rougher then. I'm telling
Yeah.
you, New England's D, they may pick Herbert's pocket.
Yeah, that's going to be Herbert's going to have to be the difference maker. Can
Yes.
he? Yes. We know he can if he can, stay away from that rush. Now, New England's numbers were posted against probably the lightest schedule of anybody in the NFL who's in the playoffs.
Yes.
So they might be a one category too high
Yeah.
because of that, but that still leaves them good enough to slow this game down. So I like the under a lot in this one. I would not be shocked to see a like 20-17 game.
Yep.
I think it will be close, but I will take New England, and I love the under. On Monday Night Football, we get Houston and Pittsburgh, and I'm wondering if Pittsburgh loses, if they'll fire their coach, just like the Ravens did
Boy,
after they
that I
lost
hope
last
not.
week.
I as I'm not a fan of Pittsburgh team, but you got to admire Tomlin. He seems on paper, on when I've seen him, he handles himself well, and just like Harbaugh. And I think those are legacy coaches, and I don't know what I guess you can if Pittsburgh gets rid of him, they better get ready for a few lean years. It could really mess up the whole thing here. 22-16, 38, Dennis. It's a squirrely squirrel game. No points scored. This could be a nice under. It could be lean scoring. Rodgers, I just have no, he needs to meditate under the pyramid or whatever he's doing to get his Ouija board or whatever's keeping him with the fountain of youth here. But I don't know. Now, is his man back? Is DK back, or is he still suspended?
Nope, DK will get to play in this
Okay,
one.
well that helps Pittsburgh here. Pittsburgh is at home, but Houston's the away favorite. That's interesting. Pittsburgh, Houston is rough and tough, and it's like they are no hose barred. I will say Rodgers can use his tight end, and I see that's a little gap. And Warren and Gainwell have been so. It looks like that the rushing and the tight ends might keep Pittsburgh in this game, and it could be uh, who knows? But I think Houston should win. But I'm not. If I was picking, I would reluctantly, Dennis, reluctantly pick Houston because I'm not a fan of these low scoring games. I always figure it's the last team got the ball. They could get lucky, and Aaron Rodgers could get lucky to one of his tight ends, and Freiermuth could catch that last touchdown at the last few seconds of this game and send Pittsburgh home. Houston should win. Schultz should do what he needs to do, and Woody Marks is going to have to earn his Wheaties, Dennis. I think it's Schultz has got to pass all day, Nico Collins all day long. That's what need, and if they can do that in an away situation, I will say that if I look to Houston's, they are very much a home team, and it's 70 six. That's 24% less
Wow.
efficient. That worries me as
Wow.
well. So I'm not buying that Houston's got a lock on this scenario here. I do say that they will try to pass more, and the Daps do give them an opportunity. But Dennis, if I was in our pick'em, this game I would be really thoughtful about who I picked. This is the toughest game for me of the week to pick, and one devil on the shoulder says, they're not the Saints, so we want them both to lose. So that's always there, regardless of who wins this year in Super Bowl. They should all lose. But anyway, it wouldn't surprise me Pittsburgh wins, but right now I'm leaning Houston, but I could change my mind. It's a coin flip for me. And I wish I could see if you told me Pittsburgh has the ball at the last, I'd probably pick them. That's how close I think this is going to be. And it's not going to be scoring a lot either.
No, I agree with that. The only thing that so I have a couple questions
Okay.
about Houston going into this one. Indoor teams traveling north in January. It's not going to be a super blustery day, but there will be enough wind to be a minor factor. No precipitation on Monday night, but temperatures will be mid 30s game time, low 30s before the end of this game. So it's not cold by Pittsburgh standards for January, but it's cold for an indoor team. So how will they react to that? That might be one of the reasons that they're so much more efficient at home.
Yep.
So that's question number one. Question two, it's which Pittsburgh defense is going to show up. If you look at the players on Pittsburgh, especially their secondary and their line, not so much the linebackers, but up front and back in the backfield, you look at the talent that they're supposed to have at those positions, and you wonder how they got torched twice by the Baltimore Ravens. Well, CJ Stroud is just as capable of getting those long passes in, and he's got a better deep receiver. Notice I said better deep receiver. Zay Flowers is a very good wide receiver. Not elite, but a very good wide receiver.
What's his MVP?
So his MVP this year for Flowers, he was at a 94.
What's Nico?
Very solid. Nico is actually at a 100 even this year.
Okay. So favor to Nico. So we're getting a better situation for a potentially better player.
Oh, yes. Yes. So you got both Nico and Jaden Higgins are both good at going long. So you now have two guys who are good at going long. And then you add a third character into this mix in Schultz, the tight end. If you look at his best 8 games this year, which is a statistic I like to look at in MVP, it shows the upside value. It shows that best ball value. 112.
Dennis,
on his MVP.
That easy just hits me over the head if I was a bettor.
Yeah, and one of the things I want to look at this year, and one of the research projects, is to look at these guys with these huge splits between their best 8 games and their total 17 game total.
Their other 9.
The other 9 games. Yeah.
Right.
That's a big spread for Dalton Schultz. What does that tell us? Does it tell us that he's a spiky player? Is he spiky in good matchup situations? Those are the kinds of things that I want to look at. But when I see a guy who finished the season strong, whose best 8 games are 112 on the MVP, which is elite at tight end, and I look at
he's
an
probably
easy
about
matchup.
What, 4th?
Oh yeah, 112 would actually be right behind McBride this year.
Yeah, so he's that good.
But overall, he was a 41. So he was in that 5 to 15 pack. Okay. But he's got the most upside of any of those later round tight end guys. He's a guy that I've always loved in best ball. Okay. Because he can have those big spike weeks for you. And the spike weeks, I mean, who are you going to stop? You're going to try to stop Nico Collins, right?
Yep, right.
And then if you can't stop Collins, you're not going to let Higgins go crazy.
Nope.
So you're going to have to play two deep safeties. Well, that opens up the middle of the field for Schultz, and their linebacking core is not that great. That's why they have an easy dap, against tight ends. So I look at everything that goes into this, and I'm like, I love Higgins, I love Collins, and I love Schultz in this game. That's enough to put him over the top. If this was an elite quarterback, and Stroud's a good quarterback, he's an average quarterback, I wouldn't mind being the 16th best at what I do, okay? It's not an insult to a player. Right. I mean, his MVP was 61, so it wasn't all that strong. His best 10 game or best 8 games was 100. So that's pretty short, numbers for quarterbacks. That's middle of the pack.
Right.
If he had an elite quarterback in this matchup, then I would think that Houston's just going to blow Pittsburgh out of the water. But Pittsburgh can wake up and play some good defense. I'm like you. Tomlin didn't win all these years in a row with a winning record. And quite frankly, some of those years when the number for Vegas for over-under wins was below 500. They didn't think much of his roster.
He elevates his people.
He's worth 2 wins a season, in my opinion.
He elevates his people.
Is he the greatest at putting, like, he's too involved in the roster development now. He's not a very good, he's not as good of a judge of talent as he is getting the most out of that talent.
Yes.
So I'm looking at this to be a close game. I like the under in this one, but I do like Houston to win.
Yeah, I agree. I like Houston, but like I said, if you told me Pittsburgh gets the ball last, that would really put me closer to 50-50, Dennis.
Yeah, this is not a blowout game, in my opinion. It's a game that should be fairly entertaining on Monday night, because Pittsburgh also has that tendency to just stick around and keep themselves.
Well, they're an annoying squirrel type team.
That's a great way to describe it, indeed. So head on over to the scienceoffantasyfootball.com. The professor's got a lot of data for you. Of course, you can see it here at the sports affiliation as well. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel here on the sports affiliation, because you do not want to miss a single show. And come on back here next week for another edition of the Matchup Lab.
Get to work, folks.